Have you ever pondered the question, what would Jesus do if he were in my situation? I vividly recall reading the thought-provoking book, What Would Jesus Do?, written by Charles Sheldon in 1866. The story captivated me, and later watching the movie adaptation featuring John Schneider only deepened its impact on my life. The concept of being able to ask ourselves, what would Jesus do? And then strive to emulate his actions, as the Saviour of the world, was a profoundly powerful idea. It resonated with me deeply and left an indelible mark on my soul. The question lingered in my mind like a heavy fog, obscuring the path to righteousness. What would Jesus do in the 21st century with all its new technologies and societal complexities? As I pored over Charles Sheldon's thought-provoking book, Searching for Answers, I couldn't shake the feeling of being lost in a maze of moral dilemmas. A wave of doubt crashes over my mind, drowning out any certainty I once held. Did Jesus actually care about saving us for eternity? The constant emphasis on serving the poor and homeless gnaws at me like a festering wound, as if something vital has been overlooked or purposely ignored. And in my desperate search through the Gospels and biblical letters for reassurance, I find only deafening silence on the topic of eternal salvation. I am bombarded with scriptures that have been twisted and interpreted to fit a narrative, but nothing definitive that states, if you are not saved, you will burn in hell. Instead, I am confronted with endless verses urging us to follow in the footsteps of Christ and embody his teachings. It's a daunting realization that leaves me questioning everything I thought I knew about Christianity. Have I truly been walking in the path of Jesus? Or was I led astray by my own flawed beliefs? The burning question that torments us, how can we possibly emulate the divine example of Christ by constantly asking, what would Jesus do, when we are so far removed from his time and the struggles of our modern age? As I posed this question to the mainstream Christian community, I was met with a cacophony of conflicting answers, each one representing a different denomination and its own interpretation. Turning to theologians for clarity, their collective response was unanimous. Jesus would have adhered to Torah, but as modern Christians, we are exempt from such laws as they were abolished at the cross. In the eyes of mainstream Christianity, truly emulating Jesus' life is an insurmountable task due to the sheer number of conflicting beliefs. And according to theologians, any attempt to follow in Jesus' footsteps is futile, as that possibility was eradicated at the very moment of his crucifixion. The problem burned in my mind like a smouldering fire, devouring any sense of peace or resolution. Paul's words echoed relentlessly, taunting me to imitate him as he imitated Christ. But what did that even mean? And then John's voice joined in, commanding me to live as Christ lived. A heavy weight settled on my shoulders as I faced two options: blindly follow my denomination's interpretation of Christ's life, or succumb to the theologians who dismissed this part of the Bible as irrelevant to modern Christianity. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't compromise. With trembling hands, I clutched onto the worn pages of my Bible, determined to rely solely on its truth and guidance. The only option left was to cling to every word and principle, no matter how difficult or unconventional it may seem. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. If the Torah was important to Jesus, then it should be just as crucial to my faith. But I had never truly delved into its teachings, blindly accepting what pastors had told me about its irrelevance. With a sense of shame and curiosity burning within me, I began to study the Torah for myself. And as I devoured its ancient words, I was struck by how far off my beliefs had been all these years. A betrayal that left me reeling with anger and disbelief. With a newfound fervor, I delved into the Torah and discovered its simplicity and flexibility. It was not a set of rigid, impossible rules, as I had been led to believe, but rather a guide for living a righteous life. And according to Paul and John, imitating Christ meant following his Torah obedience. The notion of a sin nature hindering our ability to follow the Torah was shattered as I pored over my Bible and church history. If there truly was no sin nature, then it should be effortless to emulate Christ's Torah obedience in this modern age. But what about the temptations of society? As I navigate through a world filled with cars, internet, Facebook, and other distractions, I wonder how the Torah adapts to these modern advancements, and if I am truly capable of staying on the path of righteousness. As I delved into the depths of the Torah, I realized that its teachings spanned far beyond just religion. It was a guidebook for survival in any situation and any era. Whether it be avoiding pork or avoiding causing harm to yourself and others, the Torah offered clear guidance. But what about when faced with a desperate choice between breaking one rule or facing death? In this instance, the Torah instructs us to put our own well-being first and consume pork if necessary to survive. However, there are areas that the Torah does not touch upon, such as modern technologies like cars and the internet. And yet, it also teaches us to care for our environment and our families. So what do we do when faced with the dilemma of needing a car but only being able to afford a diesel one? The Torah would have us prioritize our family's needs and purchase the diesel car, even though it goes against our duty to protect the environment. Such is the complexity and reality of following the ancient teachings in a modern world. The answer to the question may seem simple: what would Jesus do? According to Paul and John, true Christians must strive to imitate Christ's life and follow the teachings of the Torah. But this task is not for the faint of heart, as it requires intense devotion and relentless study of the Torah. We must see its relevance in every aspect of our lives and live by its commands without wavering. Patreon.com/Kaplan. For only then can we truly walk in the footsteps of Jesus and be called his faithful followers.